Here.
Ward,
Here.
Olson.
Here. We will dive right in. We're going to discuss the water treatment plant filters number 1 and 2 improvements project. I'm not sure who's leading off. Trevor?
I thought it was going to be Mark Hallen, but is Mark on here, Eric?
Seeing him.
Yeah,
Mark
I'm
was-
here.
Yep.
Mark's on the phone.
Okay.
That's the phone call. Okay.
Well, Mark or Trevor, if you can do a brief introduction before we get to Mr. Hallen.
Yeah.
Trevor is Mark Hallen. He's calling in. He's with Chad Connor. I only have one phone number calling in.
Eric, can you answer that? Where is Hallen?
All right, wait. Josh, give me a couple phone numbers here. I have some 36. Yeah, he must be this number here. I don't know, recognize it. So sorry, he might be here.
Car 54, where are you?
I'm old enough to know that.
All right.
Trevor, if you want to do a brief introduction.
Yeah, Mark is going to go through the history too. Mark actually wrote the history down this afternoon of what's been happening. We've been having problems with the water treatment plant with the filters since about the middle of the summer of 2020. And we've got two different problems happening. One was with the troughs and a gasket against the walls of the filter. And then the other one is with the caps of the filter. And we took in Mark Hallen and Eric Welch at Widseth had done the project back in 2019 when we did brand new filter caps and brand new media and pretty much rehabbed the coatings also in filters 2 and 4. So I brought Mark Hallen in because he had been dealing with the stuff in filters 2 and 4 from 2019. And the problem is with the caps is in is actually in 3 different filters. And one of them is the filter that we actually redid in 2019, which is filter 2. I think I'd like to turn it over to Mark Hallen because Mark will go through the history from in chronological order, I think, and give you a rundown of what we've been dealing with for the last almost 7 or 8 months now. We've been dealing with the issue. I don't know which. Eric, do you know which Mark Hallen's number, or are you going to take over?
It's the number that ends in 3647. He's muted right now.
Okay. Did he end up with a phone call? There
you go.
You coming online, Mark?
Yeah, I'm here. So
Introduce yourself to the city council and the mayor, please.
yeah, good evening, everyone. Mark Hallen with Widseth Smith Nolting. As Trevor noted, myself and Eric have been working with the city here the last 7, 8 months on the water plant filters. Trevor's hit some of the items I was going to go over. Like say in March, April of 2019, the city of Baxter completed work on filters 2 and 4 that included both media and media retention replacement. Those filters had been in operation for 13 years at that time, and continued issues with filter 4, kind of prompted the city or led the city to complete that project. Then in June here of this year, last year of 2020, shorter run times at filter 2 at Iron Breakthrough were becoming an issue for the plant operators because they were also then going into their peak water demand season. And backwash periods were adjusted and one media plate was replaced in June. Then in late July, early August, the city had to address media loss in filters 3 and 2 that Trevor referred to, related to a gasket detail that was used when the new backwash troughs were installed in 2018. This was not related to the media retention plates, but just another curveball that city staff had to work around here this summer during the peak water demand. The backwash connection details to the 24-inch outline sleeves, they were addressed, and there's been no issues with media loss now to date in those two filters. So, that was addressed. But then that was, July, August, and in late August, filter 2 started having shorter filter run times again, rearing its ugly head, and issues with media plates again started occurring. So filter 2 was just taken offline as the daily demand could be met with the 3 remaining filters because you're approaching the end of the summer. City staff and WITSEF, then we continue to investigate the filter media retention plates, options data from other manufacturers, discussed with other engineers, and the decision was made then to proceed with work on filter 1, which has been in operation since 2007, and also then investigate filter 2 issues as part of this project. Salvaging the media that was put in March of 19 that's only 18 months old. Scott, one of your operators, came up with that idea. Trevor said we've had countless meetings and we kind of went back and forth, but we made that decision to head that way. Then during the month of December, filter 3, which also has the original media and retention plates from 2007, starting having plate failures on almost a weekly basis. Another lovely curveball for city staff. A 7th plate was replaced on December 31st, 2020, and so far this month of January, no additional plates have been replaced on filter 3, so we're all crossing our fingers on that. This Friday, city is receiving bids to replace the media and media retention plates in filter 1, along with the backwash trough gasket corrections, because that's one filter that still has to be completed on. And then after work on filter 1 is completed, filter 200 drain and plates will be investigated, cleaned, and then and replaced as needed. With this last week, after with filter 3 having a lot of issues in December, on January 12th, it was decided to place filter 2 back in operation to provide staff with a little more flexibility here over the next few months. This work was scheduled with Rice Lake last week, and then scheduled for this week when all the Baxter operators were back. Trevor wanted to have Scott and Corey and everyone back as we were doing this. So this morning I met with staff there, and 3 plates were replaced this morning in filter 2. We've set up the temporary heat and everything. We're going to allow the sealant to cure until Monday of next week. We'll then disinfect that filter, send the samples to RW Research out at the airport, and to get our negative bacteria samples back on Wednesday. Once we have that, then we would put that filter. City staff would put that back into operation. And then, as Trevor noted, right now, I say with the bids coming in by invitation this Friday, we're assuming the city will proceed then with the work, on filters 1 and 2, starting in mid-February through March of this year here. And then based on what is learned during this work on filters 1 and 2, given the December 2020 history here and plate issues in filter 3, the city may decide that work on filter 3 should also proceed this early spring. That filter has been in operation now for 15 years. And based on the issues that the city's had here the month of December, that we probably maybe have reached the life cycle cost on the type of media plates that Baxter has in their filters. Complete that work here, so as you go into your 2021 peak season over the summer, you have 4 operating, very operational filters to meet that demand. So thanks for listening to me there as I went through my bullet points. Glad to address questions or provide further information.
We had a very lengthy discussion. It was a little over an hour long at Utilities Commission meeting about it. What's worrying everybody is that filter 2 caps are failing, and we can't explain why when they're only less than 2 years old. They're going to be 2 years old here in March or April of this year, and there's no scientific reason yet that we can come up with of why they're failing. So what's got everybody nervous at the Utilities Commission level is, are we doing the right thing by replacing the cap with the same plates in filter 1 as what we did in 2 and 4? But 4 has not caused us one problem at all. Filter 4 to date, we keep fingers crossed, it'll be 2 years in March, April, that we have not had any issues with filter 4. So that's where the discussion went. Mark also is doing speccing out a little bit different installation in the cap installs. If you want to touch on that, Mark, what the difference in the install is between what you did in 2 and 4 and what you're proposing to do in 1.
All right. Well, let's say a lot of information has been reviewed. Plus, we've just learned a lot through last fall. But a couple of things is looking at the sealant that's placed around. Denora has kind of a little different design. Well, and it's Denora's cap plate, but Leopold, who supplied the underdrain system back in 2007, we're going to revise how the contractor places the sealant around there to make sure that we have complete contact around the perimeter and actually up the sides of the filter plates to make sure that we don't have any media working its way, over the years, into the underdrain system because this filter plate, it's a type B. It has I'll say it's kind of like a sandwich. The top half of it is a denser material. The bottom half is a little bit more open and porous. So we're just looking at to prevent that. And then also we are going to use a revised fastener head system on that to just supplement the hold down power. The fasteners have not failed. What's happened to date is that the fasteners actually push, as the plates raise, the fasteners stay in place, and it's like the nail pulling through the wood. The fasteners actually pull into the retention plates. So we've had several discussions with Denora. I've talked to other engineers, and they say we'll be revising. I say essentially the fastener system in the area of the washers to hold down each plate.
And one thing that we didn't get answered at the Utilities Commission, Mark, because you weren't there, was what percentage of increase of area are we increasing with adding the washer to the fastener? How much more percentage of holding power are we getting out of that?
Well, right now, Trevor, we are doubling the washer area. We're going from a 3/8 to a 1/2 inch diameter washer area underneath the fastener, above the plate. So essentially we are doubling the area of that the washer is in contact with the type B plate, that to push it up, it would have to crush double the area.
And what does that do for the surface area of that filter cap? Are we getting in trouble with losing a big percentage of the area, or is it minute?
It's minute. It's less than there's 288 square feet in each filter. Now that's the concrete dimensions. There's about 250 square feet of actual type B plate area, because you have grout lines in between. And Trevor, we're talking about taking about 3/4 of a square foot out of that 250 square foot of plate area.
So it's a very low percentage.
Yeah, so less than 0.3%.
Yep. That was two of the concerns that the Utilities Commission was looking for answers on that night at the meeting. And I didn't have the data directly in front of me. I just said, it seemed to be very minute. But then the concern is, are we doing the right thing by putting the exact same cap in filters 1 and possibly 3 as what we did in 2 and 4, when 2 is not working, 2 is letting go? And why are they letting go?
And that's, everyone, that's like I say, we're gonna take our time in February and March as and Trevor, like I say, we learned, as you know, well, on filter 4, when we did that and luckily we caught that corrective, when we, watched the backwash pattern after the new plates were installed. So we intend to use what we learned from filter 4 in March of 19 on filter 1. And then, once we investigate and see what filter 1 looks like, we'll have that information as we approach filter 2, from that. Because I don't, like I say, we don't know the exact causation of why these plates are pushing up. I mean, especially in 2. But Trevor, if we do find considerable media down in the underdrain system that, for some rhyme or reason is creating, just pressure differentials and pressure spikes during backwash processes, then we'll determine that, once we clean that out, for lack of better words, that's likely the smoking gun, but we don't know that until we get down there and do the investigation.
But by the time we get to filter 2 for investigating, we've already redid filter 1.
Right, but as I said, we are the way the specs are written. I mean, we are drilling the holes and we are backwashing, and we're investigating all 16 secondary channels in the 8 rows of the underdrain plates, like we did. We'll be sending a TV camera down and confirming that they're clean. And there are no issues, because that's what we did with filter 4, and and then, as you noted, to date, after 2 years this March, there has not been any issues with that filter.
And we did not do that to filter 2, because filter 2 was the first one that we rehabbed in 2019.
That is correct. We started with filter 2. We had Miles, the Denora rep there for the first couple of days. He stayed through they'd replaced there's 64 cap plates on each filter, and they'd went through, done about half of them. So the factory rep was there and observed the labors, and then he left, and we completed that work, on filter 2, and then moved on to 4. And I say when we did the 3. When we sent the air and the water through it and observed the aeration pattern on filter 2, I've got the 3 videos, from late March of 2019 that, it looked good. And then when we did that same thing on filter 4, they didn't look good. So that, Trevor, you're the one that said time out. We got to get to the bottom of this. So we took that extra couple of weeks in mid-April of 19 to address filter 4 and, clean media out of the underdrain systems.
I'm speaking for myself right now. And we, is there some way that you can, I'm just a lowly appraiser, and you send us 100 pictures. It don't mean anything. I'm sorry. Can you just give us a layman's overview of what we're talking about? Is this a filter that's not attaching to what? Is it possible to give a real water filter plans for dummy overview there?
Possible, Mark, or you want me to try it?
Well, I mean, Trevor, it would be nice. We should have the exhibit, of the filter underdraining cap plates that sits up in the filter room of the plant. Right. Like I say, pictures an exhibit is worth even more than 1,000 pictures. It would allow everyone to see. Then we could point. I mean, Eric, I do have pictures of that. But it's going to be much better if we would try to explain it with that actual exhibit.
I understand.
I think I'll give it a shot. The best way to describe it is they're about 1 inch thick, right, Mark?
Yeah, well, they're 13/16, yeah, thick, yep.
They're about 1 inch thick, and they're 18 inches by 36 inches. So it's like pieces of plywood put on a floor, Daryl, to make your floor in your house. You piece it together. Every 18 by 36 inches you fill in with one of these caps. that are 1 inch thick, but they're porous. The water runs through it. That's what the water runs through after it goes through the media that's above it. And those caps are letting go from how they're attached to the plastic underdrain blocks that are below it. So it'd be like your plywood coming up off your floor in your house, but it ain't the screws or the nails letting go from your floor joists. It's the plywood pulling right through, and the fasteners are staying right put in your floor joists. I think that's about the best way to describe it, because most people know a little bit about construction of a house. So, but that's what's happening is those plates are letting go, and it doesn't make any sense in filter 2 why they would let go when they're not even 2 years old. Especially when the Denora rep, which is who makes these caps, they were here for filter 2. The rep was actually down in the filter with the contractor showing how to install them. He didn't stay for 100% of the installation, but he stayed for probably almost a day, almost one full day he was here, and worked with the contractor on how to properly install them.
So Trevor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What has anything changed as far as the backwash pressures? I mean, what's causing this is a pressure from underneath pushing these layers up, correct?
Correct. That's what the Denora rep is saying, is that we have a pressure deal. We have gauges installed on all of the backwash system, and it was before Christmas, wasn't it, Mark? It was in December anyway. I know it was in December. Mark met there, Eric met there, all my operators were there, and everybody sat. Well, the first time you went there with a camera, you actually Mark set a camera up by the pressure gauge, so it could be videotaped through the whole process to see if there was any spikes. And that didn't show up. So then they went back and they all sat right next to the pressure gauges and watched during the entire backwash cycle of all 4 filters. And nothing shows up that there's a spike on those pressure gauges. But that's all outside of the filter. There's no way to put a pressure gauge down in the bottom of the filter, at where the cap is located.
Sure, you just got to bore a hole through the concrete wall and put a gauge in the side of the tank. That's no big deal. Okay, my other thought is if it's still pushing up and the washers and bolts are ripping through this media, have we considered maybe using a strip of metal to hold it down, bolted down, instead of individual washers?
Let me ask this question, Mark. None of the ones that we've replaced where we've actually added the washer have let go, have they?
No, I mean, so far, we have not had a repeat filter cap plate or media retention cap plate fail, like you say, in the 7 or 8 we've done in filter 3, or the couple we did in filter 2 in the summer. Then as the city continued to operate that.
So
Okay, but if it's a pressure thing, it's gonna push the ones out that have the small washers before it affects the ones that have the big washers. But if you're having any trouble with the one, you've put big washers in an entire filter, correct?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
There's no filters. When they were put back in filters 2 and 4 in 2019, there was no washers used on the fasteners. What we've been doing now since this started happening is Mark come up with the idea to add the stainless steel washers to every fastener. So every one that we've replaced last year and this year have had the washers added to them.
Sure. Okay.
Not an entire filter with washers. That's what he's proposing. That's being bid right now, is that all 1,052 fasteners in filter 1 would all have washers put on them.
So when the rep was here, he saw that, right? He saw when they, you said there was no washers initially when they were installed.
Correct. Correct.
Well, and Trevor, there's a 3/8 diameter washer built right into the 2.5-inch stainless steel screw. It's a hex head drive, what I'll call a shoulder washer. So
okay.
I mean, the fasteners, the 1,024 fasteners that hold down the 64 plates, have a built-in 3/8-inch diameter washer, in the shoulder, in the head of the fastener.
Okay.
So when the rep was here, he saw the new setup and Mark, that was your recommendation. That was your suggestion, right? It wasn't the manufacturer rep or anything else. It was a suggestion from Mark to increase from a 3/8 to a 1/2-inch washer, right?
Well, right. That's what's been done. So what Trevor said, that when the Denora rep Miles was here, he was here in March of 2019 when the work was done on filters 2 and 4. And then, a year and a half passed, and now all the issues we started having, and I've had Frank Stanish is the head engineer at Denora in Pennsylvania. I've had several conversations. They said, no, washers aren't necessary. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but we're respectfully disagreeing with that. And, as we proceed with these plate replacements here that we've been now doing over in filter 3, we've been adding the 1/2-inch washers just to increase the, like you say, the capacity. I won't say but to increase the area that's the plate itself is pushing up on. So if it starts trying to crush it or pull it through, it on paper it should not, because you're trying to pull up through a larger washer.
So when the rep was here to see the new installation, did he have any other recommendations? Did he observed what was going on? Did he say anything about that with using the larger washer, or did he have any other recommendations?
No, not in March of 2019 when the when the work was going to be completed on filters 2 and 4. They were installed per Denora's recommendations, which essentially was identical to what was done when the plant was built, in 2006, 2007. In fact, I can tell you that they're stainless steel screws, and the contractor reused the same screws, in filters 2 and 4.
Would it be worthwhile to have other employees of the manufacturer and company to come and investigate and look at this situation? I'm just asking.
Yeah, nope. The good. Well, let's just I've had several phone calls. Todd Butts is the local Minnesota rep for Denora. They're a very multi-billion international company, and we've had this discussion. I still have requests into them for information from 2 months ago, because like I say, I would think as a manufacturer, you produce all these plates. Wouldn't you have some just test data that shows, okay, put pressure underneath the plate, and at what point does it fail? Is it at 6 psi, 10 psi, 20 psi? I'd like to see that information from Denora, because as Trevor said, we observed the pressure and logged it all in Baxter, Minnesota. Your pressure varies between 4.2 and 5 psi, depending on which filter is being done and, how it's going through. So we and that when you work the calculations, the fasteners themselves, have plenty of capacity of the fastener. But ultimately, like you say, that's what I would be interested in, seeing some published data from the manufacturer on, what kind of pressure did you design these type B plates for? And they have yet to provide that information from requests going back through early November.
Is our plant the only one that's experienced these problems?
We have not, right, we have not been able to find, another plant that is having, that at least Denora has not provided us with any other names of plants that are experiencing what Baxter, Minnesota has. I've talked to various engineers, and the city of Thief River Falls did a project where they replaced their underdrain system and went with a different, but it wasn't. I called, talked to their operator and why it was done, but that, their water plant was 30 plus years old, and it was just worn out. It wasn't that they were having specific problems with this type of plate in a 30-year-old plant. It was, at 30 years, they'd gotten their life expectancy out of that plant, and it was just time for an upgrade. So in the investigations we've done, we've not been able to find another plant, that has, is having similar issues with their type B plates.
In the past years, were we not having a problem with this until just these recent years?
We didn't know that we had a problem until we started rehabbing filters 2 and 4 in 2019. In 2019, when we took the media out of filter 2, which is the first one we did, then we found that there had been some plates that had let go and we didn't even know it. And the same thing happened in filter 4, but filter 4 was worse than filter 2 of the plates letting go. There was actually media underneath the plates in filter 4 really bad, and it got down in those under drain blocks. So we knew that it was a problem in 2019 that the plates had started letting go. But we figured we're putting all new in and rehabbing it. And Denora was here. Denora knew it. And they didn't seem to have any issues with putting brand new caps back in. And nothing was said, was it, Mark? I mean, by Denora? I mean, Denora knew that some of the caps had let go.
Well, yeah, in filter 4, we had 5 to 6 caps that had pulled up, failed, and we had packed with media underneath. But the discussions for several years have been, it was always felt that the issues with filter 4 were related way back to some chemical additives that were used during startup to try to enhance filter 4, or enhance the filter plant, and filter 4 was used, for that back, at the start of the plant, when the plant was started up in 2007.
I apologize, but can you explain to me just simply what do you mean by media?
Okay, each filter, it's a sand media. It's really a sand. It's manufactured. So each filter has 18 inches of what's called green sand. The green sand just means it has a coating on it, but it's just like beach sand you'd see down at Whipple Beach. It's been screened to a fine gradation, and then on top of that you have 12 inches of anthracite. Another type of media. It's lighter. That sits on top. So each filter has 30 inches of media, consisting of 18 inches of sand and 12 inches of anthracite. And that's what does the work in filtering out the iron and the manganese, as the water slowly passes down through it, during filter runs.
Okay.
I'm just curious that seemingly we didn't have any problems for quite a few years, and seemingly now we can't keep up with the problems. So what changed, or what are the thoughts there?
I guess as Trevor and I have discussed on filter, what we're seeing here on filter 3, we think that, City of Baxter, with your groundwater makeup, on average, you backwash every day. In the wintertime, sometimes it goes every 2 days, maybe in 3, but then sometimes in the summer, you're backwashing twice a day. So just the number of backwashes that these plates see is typically double to even 3 times of of most water treatment plants. So you have a considerable number of backwashes. And as I kind of, that's what we're learning, is that what we're thinking here is that maybe 15 years is the life cycle for these filter media retention plates that the city of Baxter is going to have to look at here, down the road. You did the work in 2019, now, about 2 years apart now, 2021. But looking down the road, you're going to have to look at more of a 15-year cycle, rather than the 20 to 25-year cycle that is in your operations and maintenance manual, and that what is typically expected, in the filter industry.
Yeah, what Mark is finding out by calling other water treatment plants, most water treatment plants only backwash 100 to 150 times a year. And like I say, we're doing 300 to 400 times a year of backwashing, which is considerably amount higher than other plants. And the useful life is about only 20, 25 years of the caps. So we're thinking that we've pushed so many backwashes through it that we've already wore them out. But that's good for filters 1 and 3. But what's throwing us for a loop is, why is filter 2 failing when it's not even 2 years old?
So what's the life expectancy of the box underneath the cap?
The under drain block, Mark, what's the useful life of that?
Yeah, well, that's a high density polyethylene system, and you could actually think of it as a PVC pipe underground, Trevor. I mean, you're not going to wear it out. That under drain system should last you 40, 50 years.
Yeah, we normally
There's
put
no moving parts.
But if you keep screwing in new caps, are you running the risk of ruining the ability to hold a screw in it?
It's good. Yep, we've asked that question to ourselves. So I've been watching. Noah, Sam, and Luke are the 3 guys that have been doing this, and that's what I ask them every time. Have any of the just re-putting the fasteners down, have they failed to seat properly? At least on when the work was done in 19 to do all 64 plates, none of that was an issue. And so far, like this morning, we replaced 3 filter plates. So this is the 3rd time those screws have been put down into that under drain, and there has not been an issue with stripping them out. And they go down and they seat, and we get the proper embedment to hold it down. There's also a sealant around this that also assists with that hold down. Trevor, I just looked at my watch. I'm now going to be late for the Nisswa Council meeting, and I've got about 4 things on their agenda, so I'm going to have to apologize and sign off.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was supposed to leave at 6:30, and now I see it's 6:40. So no speeding tickets on my way to Nisswa.
More than likely, you're going to have a speeding ticket.
No, I'm going to behave myself. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mark. No, Mark's done a lot. Eric and I have been along, and Eric's been over too. I mean, we can answer most questions. Mark, though, has been the one that's been in the trenches very deep and talking to a lot of different people. We are talking with the water engineers over at Bolton and Mink. We're trying to get a meeting lined up for the end of the week. I actually sent them a cap a little over a week ago, where they cut one apart and took a look at it. They have gotten back to me verbally, and they didn't see anything suspicious at all about that cap of anything that they've seen before. They have seen media get down in those caps. There's no media in that cap that they could see where they cut their cross section. So we are trying to pick everybody's brain. Mark Hallen, Eric can speak for WSN. They welcome all engineers. If we can get anybody else that could give us any more insight on this, we're welcoming the the help.
So Trevor, were they actually looking at a cap that had media that went through it? Or ended up underneath it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I gave them a real bad one that where it had lifted up far enough for some media to get underneath it. Yes. And like I say, every engineering firm has that one or two engineers, that have seen a lot, that has that 30, 35 years of experience. And Bolton and Mink has one guy in their firm that has really seen a lot. And I'm kind of anxious to see if he has anything to add, to the conversation. We've asked a lot of different people. Like I say, I know he called out to Williston, North Dakota, talked to them. Their plant was built just after ours by the same engineering firm, built very similar construction and operates about the same. And they haven't experienced any problems.
Hey, Trevor, I just wanted to ask a kind of a side question on all of this is Denora the only manufacturer of a similar product? And are there other two things, I guess, is there an alternative to them that may have a different composition that would be a better choice for us? And then the other thing I'm kind of curious about is certainly Baxter may be above average, but we can't be the most backwashing city in the entire country. Is there a place we could go to ask them, hey, you guys have to do this more than we do? What do you do? Or is this, I guess what I'm seeing out of this is either there's a defective product that we have, or we're doing something wildly different outside of specs for a manufacturer, but we haven't gotten to that answer. Just wondering if there's an alternative to trying to figure out what's going on with the specific Denora block.
The underdrain blocks, Leopold, if you were to replace the whole system is very costly. I mean, you're probably looking at upwards of $1 million project total to do all 4 filters. There is other types of caps that you can put on these underdrain blocks. Mark would be able to speak more. He's run some numbers. To go to a different type of cap, then you have to go to a little bit different media setup in the filter. It's pretty much adding a gravel layer to the 30 inches of media that's already there. And we have looked at that. The deal is, of course, is that it costs a lot more money. And then we've already done 2 and 4. Do we then redo 2 and 4? That we've already spent $250,000 on. That's where we've been. We've been going back and forth, round and round, trying to figure out what's the most cost-effective rehabilitation of filters 1 and 3. If filter 2 were to become a problem, we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion. I would have chalked it up that the useful life of the caps are there at 12, 13 years old. But when filter 2 acted up, it's throwing me for a loop. And like I told the Utilities Commission, I like going in when I feel confident that I've got 100% solution as an engineer. I'm not going into this project feeling like I've got a solution that's 100%. Our other problem is it ain't easy to get all this stuff and get it on hand and get it ordered. It takes 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks on some of this stuff. We have to have all 4 filters running and by April 1st. Roughly around April 1st, April 15th, our production will double compared to what it is right now. And then we go into the summer and we go about 2.5 times more than what it is right now. So we can't wait much longer to do something. That's our other problem that we're running into.
So Trevor, you mentioned the North Dakota plant and very similar to ours, built about the same time and everything. Do you know the number of backwashes they do?
They
each
do
day?
about 125 to 150 a year.
Okay, and we're doing about,
We're doing somewhere between 300 and 400.
so in my opinion, I think we need more information. I mean, Zach kind of led to that, indicated that maybe there's another company or whatever. I think we go directly to Denora and say, you know what, we have these questions and we want you here. And maybe the mayor and the council has to send a letter regarding that. And we want your best people here to look at this thing to help us figure out what's going on. And do we need to do those number of backwashes? I mean, there's a number of questions that have come up today that who knows how we get that answer. And to me, the manufacturer needs to find the answer for us, including give us other sites that have, besides North Dakota, give us other ones that have similar systems like ours that we can check with.
Yeah, the number of backwashes we can't change. That's because of the chemistry of our water. The backwashes, how often goes by when the iron bleeds through the filter. We don't have a choice on that.
Okay.
What we should have done because of the chemistry of our water, instead of having 4 filters, we should have had 8 filters when the plant was built. When the plant was built, the engineers designed it to run on the high end of the loading. And that's really not how you take and design a plant. We didn't learn that until years afterwards. That advanced engineering took and designed us something that always runs on the high end. And when you load that fast is causing the problem of the bleed through. So to fix the number of backwashes, we need to double the number of filters at our water plant. But that's here nor there. That's been since day one that we've been backwashing that much. That hasn't changed. What doesn't make sense right now is why do we have brand new caps letting go in filter 2, but not filter 4, both done exactly at the same time? Why does filter 2 let go and why is filter 4 not letting go? If it was letting go on both filters, I'd be looking right at Denora and saying you got a defective product. They were both manufactured at the same time, shipped to us at the same time.
Well, but they're separate products. So one can be good and one could be bad, couldn't it?
The caps? Yeah, there's 64 caps in each one.
Yeah.
And they shipped us 128 all at the same time. They actually have to change their process on the assembly line to manufacture them. So I believe they were all manufactured exactly at the same time. So I don't think there was a change where one batch was done 1 month and one batch was done another month. I believe they were all done at the same time.
Trevor, to the comments here of these other 2 council people, is it time or is it helpful to, apparently they're not answering us, they're not answering our engineers. Is it time to have an attorney write to them, or are we just small potatoes and they are going to ignore us?
I'll have to rely on Eric. I mean, what do you think, Eric? I mean, you're behind the scenes. You know what Mark Callan's been doing.
Yeah, like Mark said, he's really had a difficult time trying to get any information out of Denora. They are a huge company, and I don't know how much interest they're going to have in just Baxter. Mark has asked the question for the additional testing data and got nothing. He's asked for information on other plants that have similar plates installed, if he can get a list, if they're having any issues, and no one will get back to him. Last time we did have Denora come up here to watch the installation of filter number 2, and we had to pay them to come here to look at the filter number 2. It was actually built into the bid. There was an allowance in the contractor's cost for the product to get that Denora rep here. So I don't know how interested they're going to be in coming back. We can certainly ask that question of Denora if they'll come, but the problem is we still have to proceed with the project even to look at the under drain system. At a minimum, we need to get the media out of filter number 2 to look and see if there's any issues. And there's a cost to that. If we were just to remove the media from filter number 2, we're basically, throwing out, I can't remember the number, $48,000. I think that's the cost of the media.
Yeah, that brand new media per filter is $48,000.
Yep.
But I think the questions that were being asked, or it's not, do they need to come here? It was pretty much generic information. Who have you sold the same product to that we could talk to them? And they don't need to get in an airplane to come back and answer that. And it just seems like some of the questions that you guys, the engineers, are asking them they would not be that hard to answer, but I don't know if it would take somebody else to get their attention or not. I don't know if that's worthwhile, but
A simple question that I would have also is number 2 is the newest one, right? Trevor?
2 and 4 were brand new in 2019.
2019. Is there any kind of warranty? And I don't know a lot about this stuff. Is there any kind of a warranty on that kind of stuff?
1 year is what was on the contract, 1 year warranty.
Of course.
Yep.
1 year on the installation.
Yep.
I wanted to ask.
And again, what doesn't make sense is, the Denora rep was here giving guidance for the installation of the plates on filter number 2, and that's the one that's failing. So like Trevor said, we're just really lost as to why those plates are coming up.
Eric, do you engineers have any forums or any other ways, maybe through an engineering magazine or some kind of newsletter, that you can put out a request looking for plants that have this design?
Yeah, that's a good question. Trevor actually brought up that same point, and I talked to Hallen about it, but I don't know that he's actually sent anything out on any listservs or anything like that looking for additional information. But it's something that we could definitely do.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have to proceed and figure out what's going on with filter 2 before we can come up with any kind of a solution.
Yeah, is it worthwhile just taking and wasting the media out of filter 2, that $48,000, and try to get to the bottom of filter 2 before going any further with filter 1? We were trying to save the 48,000.
Sure. Did you guys televise filter 2?
No.
You said you televised filter 4, right?
Yep, and the reason filter 4 was televised and not filter 2 is that work on filter 2 was done first. And when, not all when the plates were taken up, there was very little media visible in the underdrain system. So it was assumed that there was no issue. And the plates were put back on, there was a little bit of water placed in the filter, and then the aerators were turned on to observe the pattern of the air coming through the water. And it was uniform over the entire filter. So we proceeded with work on filter number 4, but on that one, when the plates were pulled up, there was a considerable amount of media underneath some of the plates. So that brought up a concern, and we placed the plates back on and did the same thing, put water in, ran the aerator, and there was a definite issue at the west end of the filters.
So
so that's when we
One good thing about filter is I don't have to. Usually I'm getting home by 11 o'clock at
Can
night.
you mute Brad Person?
Thank you.
So, Eric, when you get the filter underneath, or when you get the filter media underneath the plates, do we actually lose media, or is it just kind of hang out on top of that box?
No, it'll filter through that underdrain system and eventually get into the trough at the end and then into your backwash tank.
So do we,
that's where the city initially found it, right, Trevor? I mean, you were seeing media in the backwash basin, correct?
The reclamation basin, correct.
Yep.
so
Yep.
are we seeing any of that now?
Not right now. But we did our regeneration last November. and we cleaned everything. We haven't drained it down to check it completely, but what we have been doing is draining down the filters periodically and actually taking a measurement to see how much media is in them. Mark Hallen has checked the media depths, and we don't seem to be losing any media in the filters right now. But
Keep in mind, you were losing media through that trough seal as well.
The trough seal was another whole issue that
Yep.
come up, you know,
But that's fixed, right?
fixed in 1 and 3, not fixed in 2 and 4.
Okay.
Okay, Brad, we've got to move on into a council meeting here. I don't know how you want to resolve this. We come back or what?
Well, here, let me summarize. Give me 1 minute. All you're doing tonight is approving plans and specs. At the next council meeting, we would be bringing the quotes to you from contractors. So you're not really approving anything to go forward to spend any money tonight.
Okay.
You're just approving the plans and specs, and what we will do is try to bring you back more information, and we'll do a workshop at the next council meeting, and then we'll talk about the quotes, whether we proceed with the way that we're looking at right now, or should we proceed in a different direction.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, Kelly, take us out and take us back in.